I'm with Leleli Lelaulu, CEO and President of Counterpart International. How are you?
Good, how are you doing? Lovely conference, isn't it?
It is really good, and I know that many of the attendees, 70 countries or so, are probably from countries where you have projects. Um, Tell me a bit about your organization, how long it's been around, and how you've been touching countries and communities.
Counterpart International began in the South Pacific in 1965, working with communities as they move from the colonial period through the transition to full independence. Essentially, we work with them building up their capacity both at the community level and at the governmental level, so it was equal development of both sectors of society and also helping them conserve their natural resources. So as a result of our work in the Pacific, we now have the largest non-governmental development network in the Pacific Island nations. And because of this work, working with countries in the post-colonial structures, we managed to get a lot of work in the former Soviet Union, because after the collapse of communism, that the void left was even a bigger one that was left in post-colonial times. So a lot of our programs are in the former Soviet Union at the moment. And this is again in capacity building, community-driven development. You know, people define what their needs are, and then we at Counterpart International try to find them rather than the other way around. We believe that you have to listen to the people first, define their needs, and then we go out and try and locate it for them.
Going back to the beginning again, you're from that part of the world. You're Samoan, I believe. And in 1965, was that part of a UN program that then was spun off to Counterpart International?
Counterpart International and the Foundation for the South Pacific, which it started out as and is still known in the Pacific as the Foundation of the Peoples of the South Pacific, it was started by two individuals. One was a Marist father, a Roman Catholic priest. The other was an Australian philanthropist, and the third was a film mogul from Hollywood who's Jewish. So you had a Catholic, a Jewish person, and an Episcopalian Anglican as our founders.
What a great joke. It's turned into something marvelous. And what is the UN and Kofi Annan, or your relationship with all of that? There's some background to that.
I consider that I have the best job in the world at the moment, but before this I had the best job in the world, which was working in so many different areas of the United Nations. And my most recent job at the UN was working with Secretary General Kofi Annan in the team that reformed the entire UN system. It was the biggest overhaul of the UN in its existence, so that was a great honor to work at that part of the UN. But before that, I worked in the teams that set up a series of great global conferences from Rio de Janeiro, from the Rio Earth Summit through to Social Summit in Copenhagen, and the Women's Conference in Beijing, and then the
Johannesburg?
Johannesburg, of course, is the follow-up. I let someone else do that. I figured it was time for the younger set to get involved there, and then the 50th anniversary of the UN, the summit involved there, and then the reform team. So, as I said, I had the best jobs in the UN system.
Sounds like it. Help us with the definition of for the common person for capacity building.
It's basically giving people the training that they ask for, which they think will make them a more productive person in their own society, building up their capacity or their potential, if you like, to better the wealth, the health of their families and their communities and their countries in the long term. Essentially giving people the tools that they need to build a better life for themselves, their communities and their nations.
A mutual friend, Jonathan, received an email this morning who said from National Geographic, asked Lele about the Guatemala initiative, a project. What is that all about? Something we could talk about?
We're very proud of our association, our very close partnership with National Geographic. In fact, we call it a smart partnership because both organizations do so well out of it. And the National Geographic Geotourism Charter is an initiative which we at Counterpart support right to the hilt. And we partner with National Geographic wherever the idea and an initiative of geotourism is applied or accepted. And geotourism essentially looks at improving the lives of people at the destinations while at the same time conserving the environment and the community structures in these areas. So it takes it one step further. We hope that through geotourism, travel and tourists who go to these destinations actually make a destination better. So that's why we're so delighted to work with National Geographic in so many different parts of the world. In Guatemala City, we signed the Geotourism Charter with President Oscar Berger of Guatemala and with our partners in Guatemala itself. But it was Counterpart, National Geographic, Inguat, the Ministry of Tourism in Guatemala, and Ana Cafe, which represents 75,000 coffee producers in Guatemala. So this was a fairly significant event, and it was thanks to the hard work of Jonathan Tortolo and the National Geographic people in applying geotourism that this has come about. So, if you think about it, tourism is the world's largest industry. The second largest commodity after oil is coffee. So combining tourism with coffee production and cafe tours, or Ruta Cafe as we call it, seemed like a logical fit. It was a weird idea, but the president thought it was a very good one and encouraged us to sign the Geotourism Charter in Guatemala City just a couple of weeks ago.
And practically speaking, what will follow after the signing of this charter? What action plans?
Well, you'll have National Geographic coming in with its strengths in cartography. They'll produce geotourism maps of the sites in Guatemala City itself. It's basically with the geotourism mapping structure. What we do is we identify the actual geotourism assets of the country itself. And then we work together with National Geographic, and we at Counterpart will work with the local communities at strengthening the local communities' capacities to actually create wealth for themselves and to better the lives of their families and the communities as a result. So it's an exciting new venture, and it's taken tourism to a new level, which would make it an enormously valuable contribution to the cause of world development, which is what we at Counterpart are all about.
I want to just kind of stand back a moment and go back a few days to the Global Travel and Tourism Summit in Lisbon, attended by 70 of the top CEOs and chairmen in the of companies in the travel industry. That gathering was to be about growth, managing growth, breaking barriers to growth, and shortly after the summit began, sustainable tourism grabbed the limelight. Of course, this event today is this last 3 days. The International EcoTourism Conference is about ecotourism. Yesterday was the release by our friends at UNESCO Natural Science in the Star Alliance of their partnership, and all of us who kind of hard to avoid the flying on a Star Alliance flight will be seeing vignettes about man and biosphere in the coming weeks. First, what's going on? What's your take on all of this momentum and discussion? Is this just a momentary flash on the popularity of green things in this world, and it will level off, or what?
Yes, you're right. The world's largest businesses are recognizing that tourism is the world's largest business. It employs 1 out of every 10 people, and it generates the largest volume of cash in any sector in history, even bigger than the oil industry. And what's happening is that they recognize that in order to retain the profits and to ensure sustainability of the profitability of their organizations, it's very important to look at the sustainability of the destination itself. So then on the other side you have the EcoTourism Society and its alliance of organizations who are concerned, and they want to ensure that the growth of the world's largest industry is managed in such a way that it actually contributes to the conservation of nature and the green of the planet. I mean, it's possible to make green of the dollar while at the same time conserving the green of the ecology of the planet. And I think this convergence of interests and the recognition that, you can't have one without the other is a wonderful thing, and we applaud it and support it, and we'll do everything that we can to ensure that the growth of this business contributes directly to the conservation of the greatest gift that we were given by nature.
Counterpart International is one of the hosts, sponsors of this event. And what do you think about it?
Counterpart International is very proud to be invited to be a co-sponsor of the global global ecotourism conference, because we feel that it is an important development in the world industry. We think that the concerns raised by the ecotourism societies are very important ones, which should be fed into the process of designing and developing really sensible tourism policies. Because, if we don't manage tourism properly, we have a choice of leaving it to be completely unmanaged, in which case it can become more like a plague of locusts coming out of the planet, coming out of the air. Or if we do not want a plague of locusts, then we could make it like a horde of healing angels in different parts of the world, which could certainly do with the infusion of cash, which tourism can bring if it's managed in a way that it becomes sustainable for both humans, for business people, and for conservationists.
The attendees of this conference attended a lot of sessions, and I think we who have been in the industry for some time globally, with a global perspective, know that one cookie cutter doesn't work for all cookies. And so they're hearing ideas, models from different parts of the world. What do you think needs to happen next as follow-up to this first International Ecotourism Conference?
For me personally, I would like to see the ecotourism communities actually recognize the fact that they have a duty, that they're not just tourists in the world, ecotourists, though they are, they also have a duty to work proactively now to ensure that conservation of the world's most beautiful natural resources can be maintained. And they recognize too that this can be done best and quickly by looking and working with the businesses that drive this huge industry. So I think that these two are the coming together of the realization that you can't have one without the other anymore. That we no longer can sit back and be comfortable and say, we're ecotourists, we come here to do no harm, and we'll leave again. I think those days are over. I think we have to realize now that, we're not just travelers, we should be pilgrims out there. We should be out there constantly, as if, pilgrims and evangelists for the ecology and for the environment, using our tourism dollars, our ecotourism dollars, to make a difference, and then going back and evangelizing to everybody that will listen the importance of them too getting out there and using their fun time, their vacations, to actually do some good. I mean, when else in history have we been given an opportunity to go and have fun on a vacation while making lives better for poorer people on the planet? This is the opportunity that we have now.
As an American, we are aware minimally of the activities of our USAID program. And I think sometimes referred to as a foreign aid program in the United States. All countries have it. Fund here in Norway, and we have all sorts of, every country are out there looking after the global interest and or their own interests. In what way is USAID participating in sustainable tourism?
The U.S. Agency for International Development has set up an initiative called the Global Sustainable Tourism Alliance. And this is a consortium of non-governmental organizations and of some private sector for-profit companies designed to have a ready reaction team to move quickly to apply sustainable tourism as a poverty tool and environmental conservation tool in the poorer parts of the world. Now, this is a new initiative and a new mechanism for using tourism for combating poverty. So that's pretty innovative, and National Geographic, Counterpart International, the Nature Conservancy, a lot of the other big conservation groups are all part of this initiative. And this was set up by the U.S. Agency for International Development because while the amount of money that the U.S. Agency for International Development could put into it may be relatively small, we think that we can leverage the AID name and support to get other donors internationally to help in this very important initiative.
And how will that practically translate into programs and touch travelers and touch the communities they visit?
Well, first of all, we'll be working with the local communities in Ecuador. It was the first Global Sustainable Tourism Alliance Award. And there, the partners work, one partner will work on building up the business skills of the local community. Another partner will work on conserving the environment. Another partner will work on marketing to overseas. And another partner will try to generate interest in countries to actually visit Ecuador, to help Ecuador deal with the problems of poverty by using tourism. So it's a sort of a group approach. A consortium of us will move in very quickly when needed.
Lele, thank you very much. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, John.